Throughout this channel's small but eventful lifespan, I have mentioned the PSP more times than I can count. I talk about it like I have a long-lost son. Please come home. The dog misses you. After buying and modding my PS Vita, I started playing PSP games on it and quickly remembered why I loved it so much. The PSP was the perfect handheld for me. The library was a great mixture of different IPs, and the ergonomics fit my style of gaming. So even though my Vita can play the PSP games, I wanted that original experience. I am fueled by nostalgia. Every handheld from my childhood I buy, I become more powerful. So I spent $200 on a limited edition Monster Hunter PSP for the vibe. There are actual reasons I bought this, so let me give you a rundown of what makes this PSP different from your standard PSP 3000 model you would grab off eBay. First things first, this one was only released in Japan, so I never had even heard of it until I started looking at getting a limited edition PSP. Looking at the PSP itself, there are some unique features that make it special. First thing first is it has some artwork on it based on Monster Hunter Portable 3rd. I'll get into that game afterwards. On top of that, the thumbstick has a small indent on it so your thumb can rest in it more easily, just like the indent on your head from your gaming headset. Yeah, don't hide it now, buddy, I see it. On the back, you have these grips that stick out, which give your fingers a more comfortable way to hold the back of the PSP. You gotta keep that strong grip while playing Hatsune Miku Project Diva. Come on, Miku, the rent's not gonna pay itself. Other than this, it's your standard PSP 3000 with your face buttons and your D-pad, your shoulder buttons, all that jazz. This is definitely an upgrade to ergonomics over a standard PSP 3000, even if this fucking matte finish is a fingerprint magnet, looking like a teenager's greasy Xbox controller. Alongside the PSP, this version came with a few other little trinkets that I found interesting. First, we have the UMD version of Monster Hunter Portable 3rd. Unfortunately, it is in Japanese, so I had to dump the game files and then use an English patch to play it. So the actual UMD is just a showpiece on my shelf, but I think it's pretty nice owning it. It brings joy to go alongside the entire PSP and kind of brings the whole package together. The other thing that came with it is this Monster Hunter grip that you can put the PSP in. Surprisingly, this thing is actually super comfortable, and I have been enjoying using it while I'm like laying on the couch, or I just want some extra grip space when I'm playing my games. The designs go crazy as well. Fucking caveman paintings type beat on this thing. Some nice additions to an already cool PSP. What can I say? I love participating in elite levels of consumerism. With everything in the box accounted for, we can now look at the actual PSP itself and what I have done to it modding-wise, as we turn this PSP into every hipster teen's dream. The only difference is I actually play the games instead of using it as a style piece for my outfit. Me when I use my gaming handheld as a bulky iPod Touch. First things first, buy this memory card adapter so you can use a micro SD card. The PSP did this wonderful thing that Sony loves to do where they made a proprietary SD card and they are expensive. You gotta love companies designing tech that makes your life harder than just using the standard. Me when I create an entire charging cable ecosystem for my phone and proceed to sell it at a reverse discount. Once you format the micro SD card inside the converter, now you can install something called ARC4. ARC4 is custom firmware used to unlock the PSP and allow it to do more than it was originally intended to do. I'm not going to do a whole tutorial as I'm not the tutorial guy, but go to pspunk.com if you want a full guide. Short story, you download ARC4, you install it onto the PSP, and you run the software, and boom, your PSP is now running custom firmware and is officially modded. This opens up a variety of possibilities for your PSP, including adding ISOs directly to the PSP, emulators, a comic reader, overclocking, and my personal favorite, Five Nights at Freddy's. No, Freddy, I don't want to see your new movie. Please stop throwing rocks at my window. Let's look at the emulators on the PSP. The PSP has the capabilities of running most retro consoles before the N64. The N64 is possible, but it's definitely not the best experience, both control and just how it runs. The two emulators that I downloaded on my PSP personally were the SNES emulator and the Sega Genesis emulator. I didn't worry about the Game Boy as I already own a modded Game Boy that I can play original games on, as well as my 3DS which can run Game Boy games natively. Also, it's my PSP, so my treehouse, my rules. I tested the SNES emulator with my standard test game Super Mario World, and without much surprise, it ran perfectly fine. I think the PSP is a great system for emulating the SNES because the D-pad is on the top, as well as the ergonomics are simpler to a old SNES style controller. My wrist can tell you that it is true based on the cramps they get after I hold this PSP for more than an hour. This repetitive stress injury I got from playing Osu never ceases to remind me of my horrible existence in high school. The Genesis is the same way. As long as the PSP is running at its full processing capabilities, it plays just fine. Sonic 3, the GOAT of classic Sonic that I will bring up every time I emulate, is a blast to play. Every time I see Knuckles, all I can hear is that stupid fucking Knuckles rap from 20 and 12 from that fucking channel called Dave and Brando. Please, just bring back the Pumpkin Hill rap, anything but this disaster that I had to listen to. Playing Sonic 3 and Super Mario World is fun on the PSP, but have you ever wanted to read the FNAF books on your PSP? Well, Booker is the plug-in to appease that mental illness that is still undiagnosed. Can you tell that I have undiagnosed mental illness with that stutter? Don't worry, we all want to read MatPat Impreg fanfiction by Scott Cawthorne himself. Hello, Internet! Not the greatest reading experience, but hey, you know, can't hurt to have the entire Twilight series loaded in there just in case. Or let's say you're a visual learner. You know, words are just a little too hard. Or as my teacher would say, it's just an alternative way to say that I was mentally illiterate. Then PSP Comics is also available. Add your comics to your PSP from your computer and read away. Other than these two, you have your standard homebrew apps for helping the PSP be more versatile and perform better. Fusa Gamepad allows you to connect your PSP to your computer or phone and use it as a controller. So now you can play Zenless Zone Zero using the PSP as a controller. Any excuse to gamble my life savings on unrealistic women in a gacha game. Yes! Yeah! PSP KVM allows you to play Java games on your PSP like older mobile games. I haven't played around with this, but you know, it's there. CMF File Manager. It manages your files. I don't know what else to tell you. PSP FTPD. Same as the Vita's FTPD, it allows you to transfer files over Wi-Fi instead of having to use a USB every time. It's very convenient if you plan on deep diving your PSP and adding a lot of custom software and games to your PSP. I couldn't get my FTPD to work, so I don't have any footage of this, but I just need you to trust me. And lastly, Module Checker. Lets you check what version PSP you have and the motherboard specs. So now you can tell if a Chinese seller scammed you out of $100. It's okay, it's happened to all of us. Going to tank his social credit score and get his human rights license taken away from him. Of course, I also added some of my favorite PSP games because why else would I buy a PSP? Me when I buy a handheld to play 2048 and get mad that I'm stupid. Of course, I added Monster Hunter Portable Third on here. Monster Hunter Portable Third was the sequel to Monster Hunter Freedom Unite, which was the second portable game. They're called the portable games in Japan. It's a lot more reasonable than calling them these Freedom Unite, Freedom, Portable 1, Portable 2, Portable 3. Dude, I go on way too many rants about this series. So this was the last handheld Monster Hunter they released on the Sony consoles before they moved to the 3DS as their main handheld. The problem is this game was only released in Japan, so to play it you have to install an English patch and not everything is translated. Gosh, this tutorial is just so well detailed. I love the shapes and colors of it all. Being a Freedom Unite fanboy, this game has been my main game on the PSP since I got it. Oh, I'm sorry. The new gen Monster Hunter fans are trying to take out my kidney for saying that it was better than Worlds. I also added Persona 2 because I love torturing myself with outdated game mechanics for a goddamn good story. I love the library on the PSP. You have Ratchet & Clank, the YS games, the Metal Gear Solid series, God of War, and so many more I could mention. If only they could have kept this up when they released the Vita. I sure do love having 2 analog sticks for my 20-game library. This was a purchase that was not necessary, but, you know, Mr. Moneybags over here had to splurge a little bit. In all seriousness, though, the joy I get of owning something limited edition like this that has a lot of childhood memories attached to it is really something that I can't get over. I know I could have just played my PSP games on the PS Vita, and that would have been perfectly fine, but the joy from having original hardware that was also just not even released in the US is a very cool feeling, and is a nice showcase as well when I tell my fiance about how $200 is justified for another handheld to juggle in my currently growing collection. Yes, babe, I know I haven't touched my 3DS in over a week. The rotation is set and the 3DS is on PTO currently.
Your PTO request was denied.
Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoy. Go grab a PSP if you're thinking about it, or a Vita, whichever one. I'll see you in the next video.